Have you been working on your course for more than 6 months and haven't launched yet? Do you wonder how you'll ever get anything recorded or everything recorded when new module ideas keep popping up? Are you still purchasing solutions and courses and templates to help you get to the point of launch and not making any discernible progress? The truth is that course creation paralysis happens to nearly every course creator at some point, and it is the single biggest reason that entrepreneurs fail to successfully add a course to their business. Sounds kind of dismal, right? Recognizing that you are experiencing course creation paralysis can actually act as a catalyst for getting that launch date set and in the rearview mirror. Today, I'll help you figure out what piece of the course creation process is creating paralysis in your business and the steps that you can take to finally go from being uncertain to being a 6-figure course creator.
Anyone can add a digital course to their business. So what sets the 6-figure course creators apart? You're about to find out. Welcome to the Digital Course Creator Podcast with Dr. Maura, a longtime entrepreneur now using her PhD in psychology to help you go from sticky notes to sales worth celebrating.
When I talk with course creators and watch posts in course creation groups, I often hear the same thing over and over again. I've been working on getting a course ready for years, but I still haven't launched. There are a few reasons this happens. Sometimes not launching occurs because we keep getting new course modules and tidbits and ideas that we want to add to an already outlined and mapped out course. It's kind of like going to Target for just one thing and we walk out with 20, right? We go in with the revision intention for our course of adding just one little thing or making one small adjustment. But that leads us down the rabbit hole and we walk out with 20 things that we want to adjust, change, or add, kind of like going to Target. Course creation paralysis also happens for a counterintuitive reason. Constantly looking for solutions to make course creation easier, faster, and less expensive. Now, I get it. I'm a huge fan of shortcuts, but when we are constantly purchasing or searching for new courses or template packs, it takes time away from the actual course creation process and things stagnate. That cycle of stagnation leads to uncertainty about what to do next, which can actually kick off yet another round of finding solutions for the problems, the uncertainty, the unsureness. We also hit paralysis when we get into this routine of what I call treadmill posting. Posting and posting on social media about the course, about our business in general, but it never really goes anywhere. This puts a huge damper on our motivation to get the course launched, and it also means that we are likely spending more time trying to figure out social media than working on the course itself. It's kind of like walking on a treadmill. You never get anywhere. If any of these things feel familiar, you are going to love the ideas that I have for you today, because while we can all become victims of course creation paralysis at some point in our journey, we get to choose whether or not to stay in this state. Gosh, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I collected courses and trainings like they were cheap candy. I don't regret any of them because I still use that information in my business every day, in my clients' businesses, but it did slow down the progress I was making. The truth is that success in course creation and most parts of business is highly dependent on our ability to implement quickly and intentionally. But how do you do that? That's the big question. That's what we're here to talk about today. What causes us to slip into course creation paralysis? Well, the answer here is multifaceted. It could be some of the things we've already talked about, from having tons of course ideas to treadmill posting to buying new solutions every day. But it could also be about having a lack of clear strategy. Might be that you have low or no cash flow in your business. Maybe it's a feeling of constant overwhelm or an engagement drought. It could even be that you hit an impasse after validating your course and you aren't sure what to do next. The key here is to figure out what is creating the paralysis for you, for your business. Most often, when I'm talking and working with my private clients, they are time-strapped. And so they already feel pressure when they sit down to work on their course. And that leads to a feeling of overwhelm because all of these ideas start flowing and there just isn't enough time for all of it. They can't do it all. When I hop into Facebook groups to help out other course creators, I often find myself asking the people who are posting to share their approach to generating leads and how many conversations they're actually engaging in. That alone can shift the tide for many businesses, but they're stuck in that treadmill posting zone. I know that changing my mindset to have more conversations routinely and building relationships really made such a big difference in my own business cash flow, and I've seen it happen time and again with my clients. So the first step to overcoming course creation paralysis is to look at your business and pick it apart. What happens when it's time for you to work on your course? Do you procrastinate? Do you add more and more to your course outline? Do you freeze in an ever-growing to-do list? Are you trying to cobble together some kind of strategy based on all of the things that you've seen everyone else do in their business? When you can identify the source of the paralysis, then you can actually start taking steps forward because you recognize what's happening and you can make a change. You can choose to not stay stuck in this paralysis phase of business, okay? Now, the first thing that you do once you've identified the source of paralysis is to choose a specific area to work on first. But stay conscious of the pitfalls that have plagued you in the past. Course creation paralysis is real, but fortunately, it's treatable. I would say curable, but oftentimes our habits can sneak back in if we're not really diligent in our focus. So let me give you an example of what that means. Have you ever told yourself that you are going to check on a post that you had scheduled for Facebook, make sure it went live, and maybe even give it a little like to get the algorithm going, and then 55 minutes later, you look up from scrolling mindlessly, and you maybe didn't even check that post that you were actually going into Facebook to check? This is such a great example of how course creation paralysis can creep back in. Even when we know something is a possibility, we can still get sucked into our old ways. We all know that we can get sucked into social media scrolling, but even knowing about it doesn't stop that from happening. This is why, if you want to move out of course creation paralysis, you need to focus, you need to choose a focus area, really. And when you choose that focus area, then all roads lead to that specific focus area. Each week when you're planning out your task list, each month when you're setting your goals, each quarter when you're choosing your primary goals for that whole quarter, all of these should be leading back to progress in getting your course launched or relaunched. This is what stops or prevents course creation paralysis in its tracks. And in today's 60-second solution, I'll walk you through my top 2 tricks for keeping that focus that might have you scratching your head, but ultimately, I think you'll be jumping for joy over them. I know I shared it with someone I co-work with this morning, and she said to me, "Oh, well, that makes so much sense. That makes it so much easier." So I hope you'll stick around and listen to those top 2 tips in today's 60-second solution. Now, overcoming course creation paralysis can feel a bit like climbing Mount Everest, but with a few key steps, we can conquer the paralysis and begin making progress. This is especially doable when we implement deadlines. Now, I always laugh a little bit when I talk about deadlines because around our house, everyone knows that I work best with deadlines. I was creating a training not too long ago to go with my effortless lead magnet email sequences, and I had been putting off creating the training. Not because it was hard, not because it would take a lot of time. In fact, it only took about an hour of my time in total. There just wasn't any urgency. So I just kept moving it. The moment I had that deadline, the training got done. I wrote it, recorded it, and got it ready for my clients. When I took Sell From Stage Academy with Colin Boyd, I set a nearly impossible deadline of when I'd launch my offer with a webinar a la Colin Boyd style. Then I worked really hard to make that a reality. The Sell From Stage course could have easily taken me a year to work through. It's so rich and robust. But because I had set a deadline of just a few weeks away to be able to have this webinar ready, I was able to get the main content figured out, applied to my business, and move forward. Here's the thing. I know I am not the only one that needs deadlines because I have clients who routinely set deadlines for getting work to me for review. And when they do that, they hit their deadlines. And when they don't set deadlines, the work almost always takes longer. So be sure to set those deadlines, but keep your focus narrow and keep a lookout for the actions that likely got you into course creation paralysis in the first place. So this week, I want you to take action. I want you to get out of this paralysis. I want you to gain some clarity around the paralysis that you're experiencing. So first up, let's take some time to diagnose the paralysis. It might not seem like you're taking action, but with a diagnosis, we can then choose an appropriate path forward. It's kind of like going to the doctor and working through your symptoms with them, and then you talk through what the diagnosis is and a treatment plan, right? First, figure out what's creating the stagnation and leading to the course creation paralysis. Then, choose a focus area. Get as specific as you can and keep that focus really limited. Remember that a part of course creation paralysis stems from overwhelm. So if we have too many areas to focus on, overwhelm's going to creep right back in, even if it was not one of the reasons that we were experiencing paralysis to begin with. It's going to show up. To keep your course creation focused, you might choose to work solely on getting student resources built, or you might choose to finish those course slides and get an audit for feedback. You might even choose to get help with the messaging for your course. Whatever it is, keep that focus narrow. The key is to diagnose, find a focus, and then create a deadline. Find someone to hold you accountable for that deadline. It always works better when there's accountability. And if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, do not let this be a reason that you stay stuck in paralysis, okay? Reach out to me on DM at Digital Course Creator Guide on Instagram or Facebook. Let me know what you're working on, what your deadline is, and I'll hold you accountable. So don't waste any time trying to find someone. If you don't have someone at the top of your mind that can hold you accountable, I'll be happy to hold you accountable. Now this week, we have been talking about overcoming course creation paralysis, something that impacts all course creators at some point in their experience. But it's up to you whether you let that become a permanent state of being or just a phase that you pass through from time to time. As you've heard on the Digital Course Creator podcast, I'm openly sharing the lessons that I've learned, the tools, the tactics that I've used so that you can become a six-figure course creator. Over the past decade, what I've realized is that when you go to Google six-figure business owner, a lot of the tactics out there are really focused on marketing, and they don't always feel aligned with most course creators and what they need. We need a way to increase revenue while staying aligned with our core values, our mission as entrepreneurs, and that, like anything in life, requires strategy in a lot of different areas. We have to dig deeper, and you can get that depth from a lot of different resources. We have so much available to us today. We have books, podcasts, webinars, courses, trainings, workbooks, meditations. Even with all of these resources at our fingertips, it's still easy to struggle to reach enrollment or those financial goals, and that's because what we want for our business is going to be about 10% of those resources, those learning opportunities, and about 90% or more mindset. As a psychology professor and coach, I share as much as I can about mindset here on the show. And I try to share with you practical ideas to implement those mindset shifts. But to truly thrive, we all need individualized attention. We need individual accountability and support. So if you are ready to say yes to a thriving, financially solid business, I would love to have a conversation with you. I hold at least 2 slots open on my calendar each week to help course creators take action, dig into their purpose, and create a strategic plan for growth so that they can get unstuck and leave this course creation paralysis behind. These are free, no obligation calls. So if you are ready to make the next 12 months the year that you go from being uncertain about your course creation business to a six-figure course creator, grab a strategy call at coursecalls.com. You can also find the links in the show notes, but again, it's coursecalls.com. Now, a big part of avoiding course creation paralysis is keeping the task list focused. But honestly, sometimes that feels a little bit like trying to keep the junk drawer in your kitchen organized. An impossible task, right? Here are my top 2 tricks for keeping the paralysis away and the progress front and center. First up, just choose 2 primary goals for each quarter. When there are only 2 goals for the quarter, you can stay focused much more easily, which limits the overwhelm and the need to buy more solutions. It also gives you a clearer strategy to follow and steps to take so that you can stop the treadmill of posting that never ends and keeps you from your other tasks. Secondly, and this one might be a little controversial, you should map out your week on Sunday. I know a lot of you probably already do this. But don't distribute your tasks to each day. Put them all on Monday, and then allot time to work each day. As you work, move through the Monday list until your time for work is finished. Then stop and return the next day and pick up where you left off. This stops the endless shuffling of tasks from one day to the next, the feeling of guilt for not finishing a day's tasks, and it's faster when you're planning the week because you pop all of your tasks onto Monday and you are done. So are you ready to give these tricks a try? I'd love to hear about your experience. And if you want more quick solutions for building a successful digital course business and creating magnetic messaging, hit follow now.